and welcome to Narayana IAS. My name is Abhijit, and as a part of daily news analysis, we will be discussing 5 most important articles from The Hindu and Indian Express. So let's have a quick view over the topics that we are going to discuss today. First article is from page number 7, The Hindu Delhi edition, which talks about a trade-off relationship, trade-off between income and wealth creation or generation versus income or wealth distribution or equality. And this article is urging policymakers, government to make a balance between these two objectives. Second article is from page number 9, which talks about section 126 of Representation of People's Act 1951, which prohibits political party to display election matter to the public during 48 hours of silence period. But according to a study by CSDS Lok Niti, political parties are spending more and more during this 48 hours of silence period with the help of social media to display election matters to the public. And this is a clear-cut violation of section 126 of Representation of People's Act. What are the problems, what are the consequences, and what could be the way forward, we will be discussing under this article. Third article is from page number 8, The Hindu, which talks about a scheme that is PM Awas Yojana Urban. And this article is showing that the distance between reality and whatever we have envisaged under this scheme is increasing, right? Fourth article is from page Science 2 of The Hindu, which talks about that viruses which are present in bodily fluids are not taking the same routes to enter into the body. And what is the mechanism or what is the reason behind this phenomena has been discovered recently by our scientists. And this article is mentioning that or explaining that mechanism. Fifth article or the last article for today's discussion is from page number 13, The Hindu, which talks about how NABARD is going to implement green financing or the policy made by NABARD for green financing to several projects. And after discussing all these articles, we will be solving some prelims and mains related questions. So let's start our discussion. So the first article for today's discussion is Towards a Less Poor and More Equal Country. This article is discussing about a relationship between wealth generation or wealth creation or income generation versus wealth equality or income equality or wealth distribution, right? Before going into detail of this article, let's look into the philosophical basis between these two, this relationship between generation of wealth versus equality in terms of wealth within a society. So there are two basic approaches. These are two philosophical approaches. First is known as zero-sum approach and another is known as variable sum approach. What are these approaches? So there are basically three types of or three resources available in our society. One is wealth, second is power, and third is prestige. So these are the three basic resources that are in the society, right? As per zero-sum approach, these resources within a society are fixed. So for example, if we take an example of wealth, if in a particular society there are X units of wealth available, that X unit will be fixed. You cannot increase this X unit of wealth, you cannot decrease X unit of wealth, right? So if at all a person or group of persons are accumulating their wealth, that will be at the expense of other as per zero-sum approach. So if a person is accumulating wealth, other will be losing their wealth or income as per zero-sum approach. To give it a context, let's take an example of India. Within India, if capitalists like Adani or Ambani they are increasing their wealth, it will be at the expense of others, and others will definitely be losing their wealth as per zero-sum approach. But as per variable-sum approach, these resources are not fixed. It can be increased, it can be decreased, right? So at a particular time, if a person is increasing or generating some wealth, it may be helpful in generating or accumulating wealth for others as well, right? So this is variable sum approach, and this is also true for power and prestige. So as per zero sum approach, if a person is exercising power, that exercise of power will be at the expense of others. But as far as variable sum approach is concerned, if a person is exercising power, it may increase powers of others as well, right? Let's give a graphical representation to this relationship. Lorentz curve. So there is a famous curve which is known as Lorentz curve, which shows relationship between wealth generation and equality, or this is income inequality or wealth inequality relationship within a society, right? On y-axis, it shows national income, and on x-axis population from poor to richer, right? And if at all there is a complete equality within a society, this Lorentz curve will be like this. A straight line having 45-degree angle, right? So for example, 5% people will be having 5% of national income or national wealth. If 10% people, they will be having 10% of national income. But society where there are inequality, this curve will be like this, right? So richer people will be having more income or wealth, and poorer people will be having less income or lesser wealth, right? This portion of the curve is inequality portion, and this is the complete national income. As per zero-sum approach, if this trend is in this direction, the people of this quintile or this section will be having more income at the expense of these people or the poorer people, right? But as per variable sum approach, if we increase this area, right, it will be having good impact on these people as well as these people, right? Okay, why this article is important, why this issue is important for our UPSC objective? Firstly, because this article is discussing about inequality within Indian society and its relationship with human development. And this article is explaining or urging our government or policy maker to take this human development approach for our wealth generation as well as ensuring equality, right? If we map this issue, we can map under GS paper 1 and GS paper 2 how poverty and developmental issue and government policies and interventions for development in various sectors. Let's understand the importance through previous year question. 2019 UPSC asked this question about effective utilization of public fund, which is crucial for developmental goals. And if at all there are underutilization and misutilization, what can be the implication, right? So you can expect such type of question in future as well. What is the context? There is a global research center known as World Inequality Lab, and they are focusing more on inequality, and they are giving policy recommendations to various government. Recently, they have published a working paper which is titled as Income and Wealth Inequality in India 1922 to 2023, the rise of billionaire Raj. And in this paper, they have collected data for almost 100 years, right? And they have done a very holistic, comprehensive study because they have collected combined data from national income accounts, wealth aggregates, tax tabulation, rich lists, surveys on income, consumption, and wealth to present their results. What are the key findings? Firstly, according to this report, there is a income inequality and wealth inequality in Indian society. And specifically after LPG era, these inequalities are showing rising trend. For example, in 2022-2023, 22.6% of India's national income was earned by top 1% of the population, and which is the highest percentage in last 100 years. That means this inequality, rising in income inequality is increasing, right? With the top 0.1% earning nearly 10% of national income. Similar case is with the wealth inequality. Wealthiest 1% of India is holding 40%, almost 40% of total wealth in 2022-2023, which is the highest level since 1961. The share of the wealthiest 10% increased from 45% in 1961 to 65% in 2022-2023, while the share held by the bottom 50% and the middle 40% declined, indicating widening wealth disparities, right? And in this report, they have compared India's inequality with other countries' inequality, which is showing almost similar impact or trend, right? So they have compared with global inequality, specifically with developing countries such as Brazil and South Africa, which shows even worse trend as compared to India. They said that where the top percent hold almost 80% and 85% of wealth respectively, still India's wealth concentration tripled between 1961 and 2023, right? And they have this report has shown a historical trends for income inequality and wealth inequality in India. Specifically, they have compared before LPG era and after LPG era. How? From 1960 to 1980, inequality in India was decreasing because of some socialistic compulsion, because of our constitutional provisions, because of our adoption to socialism, because almost all of the assets and property were held by government, and they strived for more equality within Indian society, right? But just after economic liberalization, LPG era in the 1980s, the escalated after 1991 economic reforms, this income inequality has escalated, has increased, and this wealth inequality has also increased, right? Moving forward, they have also compared the development level of India with other countries. For example, India's income level were comparable to China and Vietnam until 1975, but post 2000, Chinese income growth outpaced India significantly, leading to less income inequality in China compared to India, and which shows variable sum approach is effective in China, right? What are the policy implications as per this report? The report suggests that the achieving high income growth alongside reducing inequality requires improvement in human development and poverty reduction as demonstrated by China and Vietnam. And this report has shown some state level development approaches as well to substantiate their argument that Indian states with high human development state scores like Kerala and Tamil Nadu have experienced sustained high economic growth rates, while the states with lower scores like Bihar and Uttar Pradesh have grown less rapidly in comparison to these two states, or these states which are having good human development level, right? Before moving forward, let's take a view over the approaches that so far government has taken to reduce poverty in India. So firstly, they have taken trickle down approach. For example, Nehru-Mahalanobis model and creation of various SEZs, etc. The second approach is redistribution of resources. For example, progressive taxation system, subsidies, etc. Third is employment generation. This can be further categorized as wage employment creation, and second is gainful employment generation. Wage employment, we can have examples such as MG Narega schemes, etc. And what about gainful employment opportunities? For example, reservation system, right? Next is inclusive development approach. For example, financial inclusion, right? Next is human development approach. This article is discussing about this human development approach to reduce poverty, to generate wealth in India, right? So what is this human development approach? Firstly, we have to understand human development and India's status in human development. As per this article, India was ranked 134 out of 193 countries in the Human Development Report of 2023-2024, indicating a relatively low level of human development despite being the fifth largest economy. If we compare with a neighboring country, despite its large economy, India ranks lower than neighboring countries such as Sri Lanka, Bhutan, Bangladesh in terms of human development. As far as economic growth versus human development is concerned, India's rapid economic growth has not been effectively translated into improvements in human development, highlighting a disconnect between economic performance and quality of improvement. This article is saying that if we increase human development, it will increase the economic growth. It will be helpful in income generation, wealth creation, right? But if we only focus on wealth generation, it will not be translated into human development, right? So that is why developing human resources or this human development approach is very important for India. This report emphasizes that human development should be prioritized to ensure inclusive growth. Without improvement in human development, economic growth alone may exacerbate inequality and fail to reduce poverty effectively, right? Moving forward, there is an impact of income equality or economic inequality on human development as well. India's human development scores decreases significantly by 31.1% when accounting for economic inequality, showing the deep impact of unequal wealth distribution on overall health human development metrics. So there is a limitation of current welfare measures. Whatever government has taken approach for poverty reduction and wealth creation, there is a limitation. The Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan, they have given this example, Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana, which provides free food grains to about 81.35 crore beneficiaries, is seen as insufficient in the context of profound economic disparities, and cannot alone support sustainable and inclusive growth. You have to train people, you have to empower people, you have to increase the capability of people so that they can earn these food, right? You should not give food to them, rather you should give capability to them so that they can earn these food, right? And this is the major point which this article is emphasizing. There is a risk of sustained inequality as well. This report cautions about the potential for major social and political upheaval if the current levels of inequality persist without effective mitigation through comprehensive development policies, right? Moving forward, what is the quotient? The findings suggest that economic growth should not be prioritized over human development to ensure inclusive growth and reduce inequality. First. Second, the paper questions the sustainability of current inequality levels without significant social or political changes, hinting at the potential for unrest if the status quo continues. So the article is arguing that the twin objective of economic growth and poverty reduction can only be occurred if we take human development approach for our poverty reduction and wealth creation, right? Next article is analyzing digital ad campaigns during the silence period of the first phase of Lok Sabha election. What is the silence period? It's a duration of 48 hours just before actual polling. Okay, before going into detail, free and fair elections are the bedrock of democracy. How we ensure free and fair election? Firstly, by ensuring the political rights or equality in terms of political rights. So, one person, one vote, one value. Second, by ensuring free and fair choices to the people. How? For example, conducting elections periodically. Second, giving them choices in terms of representatives, political parties, the various ideologies. And third, prohibiting any corrupt mechanism which can opinionate voters, right? Third is devising certain mechanisms so that it can ensure free and fair choices. For example, in India, MCC, that is Model Code of Conduct, and Representation of People's Act, these are the two mechanisms which are ensuring free and fair choices. And fourth is providing or ensuring independent regulatory bodies so that that regulatory body can take care of this mechanism and this free and fair choices. As per this article is arguing that there are certain corrupt mechanisms which are being used by various political parties, specifically in the silence period, which are opinionating people, firstly. And secondly, the mechanism that we have adopted to ensure free and fair elections in India, these are being violated with the help of social media by various political parties, right? This study was conducted by CSDS Lok Niti, which is a NGO, private organization. Why this article is important for us? Because firstly, it is mentioning Model Code of Conduct, and secondly, it is also explaining one specific provision, that is section 126 of Representation of People's Act. If we map under our GS syllabus, we can map under GS paper 2, Representations of People's Act, right? Let's understand the importance of this whole issue with the help of previous year question. In 2017, UPSC has asked about Election Commission of India and its prelims exam, and almost every year UPSC is asking questions from election topic, this issue of elections. So you can expect such type of question in future as well. What is the issue currently which is being noticed by CSDS Lok Niti? According to this report or this study, this says that section 126 of Representation of People Act, it bans public display of election content on television and similar media during 48 hours pre-poll silence period, right? The Election Commission has specified that this restriction extend to social media platform as well, right? Despite rules banning campaigning during the pre-poll silence period, this study found out that political parties, and it's not just single political parties, but across the political parties, they continue to spend heavily on social media ads during this time, right? So, for example, this article is taking example of two important or major national political party. We are not naming these political parties here, but we are naming as National Party 1, National Party 2. And according to this study, they are spending money on Google ads, Meta, that is Facebook ads, and they have analyzed multiple ads, and they found out that these ads are targeted ads firstly. That is, corrupt mean to affect or opinionate the voter's mind, right? And second thing is, these ads are published at the time of silence period, right? Okay. So what are the intakes from data? Study revealed that 13 out of every 50 ads of the National Party 1 were aired during the silence period in the constituencies participating in the first phase of election. Data underscores that a strategic placement and targeting of political advertisement during critical phases of the electoral processes. And thirdly, various data also suggest that digital media campaigns gave them more precision and efficiency in targeting voter and thus influencing voter behavior and pattern, right? Okay, what are the strategies that they have used? Firstly, micro-targeting during the silence period and location-based targeting, that is making their ads more precise, right? But the problem is, because of this precision, they are targeting a few people, and that too they are twisting the facts in such a fashion that those voters can be opinionated, right? For example, campaigns on Meta platform during silence period, both the parties ran state-specific ad campaigns on Meta platforms using official social media handles. Unlike Google ads, none of the ads on Meta platforms were pin code specific. Still, they were state specific. Moving forward, what is the takeaway from this study? Data is evidence on how political parties push the limits of MCC, that is Model Code of Conduct, through targeted digital ad campaigns. The lack of significant enforcement action against these violations calls into the question that MCC effectiveness in ensuring fair elections. MCC stands for Model Code of Conduct. Thus, India political system should reconsider giving MCC statutory right and providing digital and human resource support to increase effectiveness of the guidelines. But what is MCC? What is Model Code of Conduct? Let's see this thing. MCC is a set of norms and the principles to guide the political parties and candidates during elections, right? This MCC does not have any single statutory backing. Rather, it evolved with the consensus of political parties to abide by the principles embodied in said code and also binds them to respect and observe it in its letter and spirit, right? But MCC is being enforced by Election Commission of India, which ensures observation of the MCC by a political party in power and contesting candidates for conducting free and fair election under Article 324 of Constitution of India. The major objective of MCC is that official machinery for electoral purposes is not misused. Further, it is also ensured that electoral offences, malpractices and corrupt practices are prevented by all means. Okay, this MCC is this point is important from prelims point of view. MCC is enforced from the date of announcement of the election schedule by the Election Commission and is operational till the process of election is implemented. Moving forward, as far as jurisdiction is concerned, during general election to the Lok Sabha, the code is applicable throughout the country. During general election to the Legislative Assembly of the state, the code is applicable in the entire state. During by-election, the MCC would be applicable in the area of the concerned constituency only, right? So, as we have already discussed, it doesn't have any statutory backing, but it has come to acquire strength in the past decade because of its strict enforcement by Election Commission of India. Also, certain provisions of MCC may be enforced by invoking corresponding provisions in other statutes such as IPC 1860, CRPC 1973 and Representations of Peoples Act 1951. Next article is an overview of the PMAY-U scheme, that is Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana urban part. Okay, why this article is important? Because this article is assessing PM Awas Yojana, its objective and implementation. Okay, if we map this article or this issue, we can map under GS paper 2, government policies and interventions for development in various sectors. Previously, UPSC has asked questions related with this smart city program or urban development or urbanization. So you can expect such type of question in future as well. What is the context? Context is, as the current union government completes its 2 terms, a significant highlight has been its flagship program, Housing for All, that is the major objective behind Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana by 2022, and they have extended this scheme to 2024, right? And which is spanning both urban and rural areas, but we are focusing here on urban part of this scheme, right? What is PMAY, that is Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana scheme? It was launched in 2015 with the aim to provide all weather pakka houses to all eligible beneficiaries in the urban areas of the country by the year 2022 through states, UTs, central nodal agencies, right? So implementing agencies will be states, UTs, and other central nodal agencies. That is why it is a centrally sponsored scheme. Certain section or share of the expenditure will be bear by central government and rest will be bear by the state governments, right? Okay. What are the objectives of this scheme? Majorly 3 objectives. One is rehabilitation of slum dwellers. Second is promotion of affordable housing for the weaker section through credit linked subsidy scheme. And third is affordable housing in partnership with public and private sectors and subsidy for beneficiary led construction, right? What are the targets? Firstly, the scheme envisions provision of housing for all by 2022 when the nation completes its 75 years of independence. In August 2022, the Union Cabinet has approved the continuation of PMAY up to 31st December 2024, right? And what is the current status of this PMAY? And that is the critical aspect of this PMAY. According to government's estimate, there is a shortage of around 2 crores houses in rural areas and 20 lakhs in urban centers. That is 2 million in urban centers. But as per various studies conducted across the India, it was found out that till 2023, the urban shortfall was more than 6 million houses, right? So there is a gap between what we have envisaged and what is necessary or what is the reality, right? According to a study, urban housing shortage is increased by 54% from 1.88 crore in 2012 to 2.9 crore in 2018. That means the shortfall is also increasing, right? And this trend is increasing, okay? According to data from PMAY dashboard, as of April 15, 2024, there is shortfall of around 40 lakh houses from the sanctioned houses by the government, right? PMAY Urban has also addressed a 25% of the housing shortage by delivering 80 lakhs homes. That is the past record. Even if the remaining houses are constructed by the end of 2024, it would have addressed just about 37% of the real need. That means we have to extend this scheme beyond 31st December 2024. That is the crux of this article. Next article is new type of host defense against Zika dengue viruses revealed. This article is discussing about a new scientific discovery related with the functioning of viruses, and it's a very technical article but will be helpful for your prelims exam. How related? This article is discussing about viral infection and a mechanism that is known as extracellular vesicle defense mechanism, right? And which is important for our prelims. For example, previously UPSC asked in 2022 regarding the vaccine development. So you can expect such type of question in future as well. What is the context? This article is discussing about a new or recent scientific discovery that explains why certain viruses despite being present in bodily fluids like saliva and semen, do not transmit through those routes, right? So within these body fluids, there are certain elements which are functioning similar to the viruses, and they are competing with these viruses, right? And that is why viruses are not taking these routes to enter into the body, right? What are viruses, how they are functioning, how they are attacking body, we will be discussing, and then we'll see the recent discovery. Okay, firstly, what are the viruses and how do they work? Okay, viruses are microscopic organisms that can infect host. That means they are showing parasite type biotic interaction, parasitic biotic interaction. The host can be humans, plants, or animals, and they are a small piece of genetic information, DNA or RNA, inside a protective shell capsid. So there is a capsid, it's a protective layer, and within which a part of DNA or RNA exists. That is why they are neither completely living nor they are completely dead. They are not the complete cell. They are just part of DNA or RNA, right? Okay, some viruses can have an envelope, some may not have envelope. Viruses cannot reproduce without a host because they are not complete cells, so they cannot reproduce themselves, right? So that is why they have to be dependent on host for their reproduction, and that makes them very lethal or problematic. Some common diseases caused by viruses includes flu, common cold, and COVID-19. How virus invades a cell? Let's see the mechanism. So this is body cell and these are the viruses. When these viruses enter into the cell, some of the substances in the cell, it begin to strip off the virus's outer coat of protein, that is capsid, right? The nucleic acid in the center of the virus is released then, right? And the nucleic acid gets into the cell chemical manufacturing system. The cell ignores its own chemical needs and switches to making new viruses, and then the cell is sometimes destroyed in the process. Many of the new viruses are released to infect other cells. So that is how they reproduce themselves and they increase the number of viruses, right? But there were a mystery how and why these viruses, even though they are present in these bodily fluids, they are not taking these route to enter into the body, right? So scientists have been puzzled by the presence of certain viruses in bodily fluids like saliva and semen that we have seen and do not transmit through these routes, right? Viruses such as Zika, dengue, and chikungunya have been detected in these fluids, but they primarily spread through mosquito bites and not through these mechanism or these body fluids. Okay, so let's see the actual mechanism why these viruses are not taking these routes. So this is apoptotic cell. What is apoptotic cell? These are genetically defined, or these are the defined or programmed death cell, right? These are the programmed death cell. So cell after certain point of time, they become programmed death cell. They are about to die, right? And immune cells are the cells who are grasping or eating these apoptotic cells, right? These apoptotic cells are identified by certain receptors known as phosphatidylserine receptors, right? So these are the apoptotic cells, right? These apoptotic cells are about to die. The immune cells are eating these apoptotic cells and they are recognized by this PS receptor, that is phosphatidylserine receptors, right? Now, viruses are using the same pattern, right? These viruses evolved ingenious strategies to hijack cellular machinery and facilitate their entry into host cell. One such strategy is called as apoptotic mimicry. They are mimicking the apoptotic cells, wherein viruses express their protein phosphatidylserine on their surface, right? This PS is typically expressed by dying cells as a signal for immune cells to engulf and destroy them. However, viruses exploit this mechanism by displaying PS, allowing them to infect the very cells that should eliminate them. So, immune cell should eliminate viruses, but now they are capturing these viruses, they are eating these viruses, right? And because of which these viruses invade the immune cells, they invade the cells, and they reproduce themselves, and they increase the numbers of viruses, right? In this groundbreaking study published in the journal Nature Microbiology, scientists have uncovered a novel defense mechanism that explains why certain viruses do not transmit through bodily fluids like saliva and semen. Because in these saliva and semen, there are certain elements which are also showing such type of mechanism. They are also mimicking the apoptotic cells, right? Apoptotic cells. So that is why these elements are competing with viruses, and that is why viruses are not taking these routes. Their research revealed that these bodily fluids contain abundant extracellular vesicles, and this mechanism is known as extracellular vesicles defense mechanism. Small structures enclosed by fat or cells used to transport substances, right? Remarkably, these extracellular vesicles also display PS protein on their surface, mimicking the strategy used by viruses for entry into host cells. The researchers demonstrated that the PS containing extracellular vesicles in saliva and semen compete with viruses for the same receptors used for entry into host cells, right? And that is why by saturating these receptors, the extracellular vesicles effectively crowd out the viruses, preventing them from infecting new cells and subsequently transmitting them through these bodily fluids. Last article for today's discussion is NABARD unveils strategy to mobilize green financing. This article is important from prelims exam point of view because this article is discussing about NABARD and its strategy towards green financing. The NABARD has recently unveiled its strategy document for green financing, right? Let's understand through previous year question point of view. 2022 UPSC asked about greenwashing. So such type of keywords can be asked in your prelims exam as well. NABARD, that is National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, on the occasion of Earth Day, it has unveiled its Climate Strategy 2030 document. So you can expect this type of question, like UPSC may ask this question, like which of the following institution has unveiled its Climate Strategy 2030 document during Earth Day this year? So you should be very cautious while reading such type of fact or information. What is included in this NABARD Climate Strategy 2030, which is structured around basically 4 important pillars. First is accelerating green lending across the sectors. Green lending means the projects which are having positive impact on our environment or on a sustainable development. And if some banks or some private individual or some lending platforms are giving finances or lending to those projects, this will be included under green lending. So NABARD's Climate Strategy 2030 is focusing on acceleration of these type of green lending. Second is playing a broader market making role. So if a particular private sector or organization is increasing the demand for these type of green projects, that is also included in this strategy. Third is internal green transformation. For example, you are a private organization, company, and you are changing your building so that the energy efficiency can be ensured, right? So this is kind of green transformation. Lastly, strategic resource mobilization for such type of green projects. What is green financing? Green financing is to increase the level of financial flows from banking, microcredit, insurance, investment from public, private, and non-profit sectors to sustainable development priorities, or those projects which are having positive impact on our environment. There are certain pros of these green financing. There are certain positives of these green financing. Firstly, it encourages spread of new technologies, sustainable technology. Secondly, it is producing a comparative advantage specifically for developing economies. Thirdly, it is adding business value to our economy. And lastly, it is enhancing economic prospect. Specifically, it is increasing demand and consequently, it is increasing employment opportunities. But there are certain risks involved in these kind of green finances, specifically related with the long gestation period and very low return of these type of projects. So maturity, there is a maturity mismatch because these projects are having a long gestation period. Second, there's a lack of standard definition of green financing or green project, and that is promoting greenwashing, right? Third is financial and environmental policy integration. There is a lack of coordination across the sectors, across the ministries or departments, across the governments, right? There's also constraint of capital mobilization because of low return. It is grappled with such type of problem. Also, there are certain problems related with the disclosure and standards. How? There's a need for clear disclosure standards. Also, there should be some voluntary norms and legislative incentives. And lastly, there is market and risk monitoring associated with this type of green finance. What is the current status of green financing in India? Firstly, NABARD has envisaged almost $170 billion need for green financing in India, right? And that is to achieve a cumulative total of 2.5 trillion by 2030. But currently, there is a shortfall. We are not giving enough for green financing, right? For example, current green finance inflows fall significantly short, totaling only $49 billion in 2019-2020. That too is majorly focused towards mitigation and not focusing on adaptation and resilience, right? So the majority of the funds are directed towards mitigation efforts. What is mitigation? Mitigation means you are reducing or you are prohibiting CO2 emission to the environment, but that is leaving only $5 billion for adaptation and resilience. That is, what is adaptation? That means you have accepted that climate change is a fact and you are adopting yourself, or the ecosystem is adopting itself for the climate change, right? There's also problem of limited private sector engagement in these areas, which is attributed to challenges in bankability and commercial viability, right? Let's look into some trivia related with the NABARD. NABARD is a development bank with a focus on rural sector of India, right? So mind it, NABARD is only associated with the rural sector. It was established in 1982 under the NABARD Act of 1981, and it serves as an apex banking institution for agriculture and rural development. Okay. Moving forward, headquartered in Mumbai, it operates under the supervision of RBI and the Government of India both, right? NABARD's functions encompasses financial, developmental and supervisory role aimed at empowering rural India and promoting financial inclusion. There is another body which is associated with green transformation, which is known as Indian Green Building Council. This IGBC is a part of Confederation of Indian Industry. It was established in 2001 and is recognized as India's lending certification body in the field of green buildings. That is a part of green transformation. It's responsible for developing new green building rating programs, providing certification services, and conducting green building training programs. This IGBC plays an active role on the global stage as one of the 5 countries represented on the board of the World Green Building Council. This is very important trivia for your prelims exam, which is participating in discussion on global issues at events like COP and other similar platforms. So far, we have discussed all the important articles. Let's do some practice questions. First question is, which of the following statements about Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana PMAY-U scheme are correct? PMAY aims to provide all-weather Pakka houses to all eligible beneficiaries in urban areas by the year 2024. This is correct statement because earlier it was 2022. Now they have changed to 2024. This scheme is implemented by Government of India under the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. No, under Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, that is MOHUA. Right? So this statement is incorrect. Answer will be A part. Next question is, which of the following are the components of Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana PMAY-U scheme? Beneficiaries-led construction enhancement, that is correct. Affordable housing in partnership, that is also correct. In situ slum redevelopment, that is also correct. Credit-linked subsidy scheme, that is also correct. So answer will be D part. Consider the following statements about the model code of conduct for elections in India. The MCC comes into force the day the election schedule is announced by the Election Commission, that is correct. Once the MCC is in effect, the government cannot announce any new scheme that might influence voters, that is also correct. The MCC is legally binding, no, that is not correct. So statement 3 is incorrect. Answer will be A part, 1 and 2 only. Which one of the following best describes apoptosis? A spontaneous process where cells deteriorate due to external injuries? No, because of time, because they have lived a lot, many days. So that is apoptotic cells. So genetically regulated process that leads to programmed death cells, that is correct. Rapid immune response that leads to destruction of infected cells? No, it's not because of infection. It's because of, it's a regular genetic process. A reversible cellular process used by organism to adapt the environmental change, that is not correct. So answer will be B part. Consider the following statements about Indian Green Building Council. The Indian Green Building Council is a part of the Energy and Resource Institute. No, this is not. IGBC is India's premier certification body, headquartered at Hyderabad. That is correct statement. So answer will be B part. Now, mains practice question. The twin objectives of high economic growth and reduction of inequality can only be achieved with improvements in human development and poverty reduction. Discuss the statement in the context of India. So, in introduction, you have to explain why we need high economic growth, why we need to reduce inequality, and then we have to explain the body part, how these two are related, or what are the strategies so far Indian government or governments in India have adopted, and why these two things are important for our development, overall development. Then you have to explain why human development approach is necessary for achieving these two twin objectives, right? And then in conclusion, you can positively explain that these objectives can be fulfilled only with the help of human development approach, along with certain other approaches that we have discussed earlier. So, in body, we have to start with explaining why achieving high economic growth and reducing inequality is a constitutional compulsion of governments or India, specifically with respect to DPSP. Then in body, you have to explain different strategies deployed so far, for example, trickle-down effect, trickle-down approach, or employment generation approach, etc., etc. Then you have to explain how achieving high economic growth and reducing inequality are indeed closely linked to improvements in human development and poverty reduction based on the fact that we have discussed earlier. Then in conclusion, achieving high economic growth and reducing inequality in India necessitates a comprehensive approach and that prioritizes improvements in human development and poverty reduction. By investing in education, healthcare, social protection, and inclusive economic policy, India can foster sustainable development, promote social equity, and ensure that the benefits of growth are shared more equitably across society. Through this, we are concluding our discussion for today. If you like our initiative, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much.